It is the determination of the Science and Security Board of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists that the world has not made sufficient progress on existential risks threatening all of humanity. We thus move the clock forward. In setting the clock closer to midnight, we send a stark signal. Because the world is already perilously close to the precipice, any move towards midnight should be taken as an indication of extreme danger and an unmistakable warning. Every second of delay in reversing course increases the probability of global disaster. It is now 89 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight. It is now 89 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
This is no ordinary clock. It doesn't tell time. Instead, it counts down to the apocalypse. This is the Doomsday Clock. And if we're to ever strike midnight, well, let's just say we probably won't be here to see it. On January 28th, experts updated just how close they think we are to catastrophe. The Doomsday Clock was conceived by a group of scientists who worked on the atom bomb, known as the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. In 1947, the symbolic clock was first set at 7 minutes to midnight by designer Martel Langsdorff, representing their fears of atomic annihilation.
The seeds of man's oblivion.
But fears eased by 1963 with the signing of the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, and the Bulletin reset the clock to 12 minutes to midnight. Since then, the clock has been set further and closer to midnight, according to the severity of an increasingly diverse range of existential threats, determined by scientists and Nobel laureates, reaching its furthest in 1991 at a comforting 17 minutes from disaster. In 2022, the clock was kept to just 100 seconds to midnight due to issues like nuclear armament, climate change, and threats to democracy. In 2023, scientists moved the clock up even closer to global catastrophe at just 90 seconds to midnight and kept it there in 2024. And now, in 2025, experts pushed it to an alarming 89 seconds to midnight, due in parts to conflicts around the globe, AI advancement, and slow movement on addressing climate change.
I'll be signing 4 new executive orders. First is that I'm directing our new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, he's what we need, to immediately begin the construction of a state-of-the-art Iron Dome missile defense shield, which will be able to protect Americans. You see that with Israel. We're out of 319 rockets. They knocked down just about every one of them. So I think the United States is entitled to that, and everything will be made right here in the USA, 100%.
Play for power by President Trump. The White House ordering a halt to all federal aid overnight, a move that could threaten hundreds of billions of dollars for state and local governments and impact everything from education to transportation. The acting director of the Office of Management and Budget announcing in a memo that all of that funding will be reviewed to make sure it complies with, quote, presidential priorities. Now, this move meeting fierce pushback from Capitol Hill, with lawmakers insisting this power of the purse lies with Congress.
Last night, President Trump plunged the country into chaos. Without a shred of warning, the Trump administration announced a halt to virtually all federal funds across the country. In an instant, Donald Trump has shut off billions, perhaps trillions of dollars that directly support states, cities, towns, schools, hospitals, small businesses, and most of all, American families. This is a dagger at the heart of the average American family in red states, in blue states, in cities, in suburbs, in rural areas. It is just outrageous.
Donald Trump's administration is lying to you. The White House's attempt to walk back what they did today does not match what we saw on the ground. They assured us that Medicaid would not be affected. That was a lie. Our state agencies were unable to access the Medicaid system until an hour ago, preventing payments for services. And this has been reported from states across the nation. When we reached out to federal agencies, they informed us that they have been directed not to discuss any guidance with states. They have canceled previously scheduled meetings for this week. Donald Trump and his administration have not earned the benefit of the doubt. They are either lying to us or they are critically incompetent.
We have big news because Donald Trump has ordered a complete freeze on federal assistance for programs that don't directly go to Americans like Social Security and Medicare. Here's everything that could be impacted at 5 p.m. today. Funding for Medicaid could be impacted. Funding for school breakfast and lunch programs, Section 8 rental assistance, Title I education grants, temporary assistance for needy families, state grants for child care, Head Start programs, which child care facilities rely on, and the special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children. But that's not all. Before I continue, if you don't yet follow me on my Instagram, Substack, and YouTube reason, it's all linked in my bio. HUD's Community Development Block Grant Program could be impacted, and the EPA's grant of clean water infrastructure grants will likely be frozen. State highway reimbursements could be impacted. Funding for local law enforcement agencies to help them fight crime could be impacted. And funding for research for universities to cure cancer could be impacted. We don't exactly know yet what will be impacted, but all of these programs are essentially on the chopping block right now.
Our country is under direct threat by the President-elect of the United States. It is a declaration of economic war, in my opinion. And in wartime, people need to come together and support each other. Whatever it takes to ensure we get the attention of the Americans, that we remind them about how their prosperity is our prosperity. They have no better ally in the world. Whatever it takes, British Columbia will be there.
Everything that we see Donald Trump doing, all of this craziness, these rapid-fire executive orders, these over-the-top things that he's doing with firing generals, the mass deportations, the trying to roll back all of the employment protections. This is all part of a bigger plan. This whole entire shock and awe stuff, you have to understand, it's to confuse the American population. It's to bring about rapid change so that they can undermine the United States government. If you look through history, this is how all dictators rose to power. They do outrageous things, outlandish things. Everything happens so quickly. And then they tear down the system that is already in place and they replace it with their own system.
Why the fuck would the owner of the Yankees come out and warn the country? Just watch this shit.
Let's just say the power grid goes out. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
I know.
Just do whatever you can to be ready for it. Some people are maybe saying, well, I don't have the kind of money. You guys got the money. This isn't about money.
Okay, now you tell me. Didn't Trump just mention that in his speech?
The big problem is we need double the energy we currently have in the United States. Can you imagine? You don't have to hook into the grid, which is old and, could be taken out. If it's taken out, they wouldn't have any electricity.
Now, I didn't take it serious until one of Trump's random military friends explained what would actually happen to America.
Everything that you know is done, and desperation kicks in. When the power goes out, there goes your water, there goes your food, there goes your heat, there goes your cooling, there goes your transportation. And then people start getting desperate. You see looting. Wait till you see what it looks like when they just want something to fucking eat because they haven't eaten in 3 days. They're starving to death.
And when this happens, information is going to be the most powerful resource because nobody's going to know what to do.
Do you folks honestly think that you could stock up all the food, buy an RV, build a tiny home, and go live out in the guts of the wilderness? What do you think is in the wilderness? What lurks in there? What predators are there waiting on you? Well, biblically, we know that there's wolves in the wilderness. And what does wolves do? Wolves are meat eaters. Remember that. You think you're going to be able to run without having a relationship with the Father? Do you really think there's nothing divine going on today? You folks still believe in science? You still have this Darwin mentality? Do you folks literally not see the Father showing you his power in all his glory, and he's not even started. It's quite simple, and we need to understand that he's in charge and has always been in charge.